Hello everyone, ReeferGil here. Let's build ourselves a DIY water changing device where you can walk away from the tank and ensure it will remove exact amount of gallons you wanted it to. Hello everyone, ReeferGil here. This video is going to be about a siphon that I created out of some PVC and hose. It comes in really handy because I can hang it on the rim of the tank and siphon out exactly either 10 gallons or 15 gallons of water, so I can walk away from the tank and know that I'm not going to siphon out any more than that amount. I'll go ahead and get started and show you guys how I constructed it and how it works. For this project I used 1-inch PVC. I have two 90-degree elbows, one optional T-fitting, one 45-degree fitting, one 1-inch to 3/4 reducer female threaded, and one hose barb 3/4 inch male threaded to go into the female threaded 3/4 inch reducer. So beside the desired size PVC you'll be using for your project, you'll also need some sort of PVC cutters. You'll need a measuring tape, Teflon tape, a marker to mark off your PVC glue, and of course your hose. In my case it's 3/4 inch hose. Now that we have everything we need, let's go ahead and dry fit the PVC to ensure it matches up to your tank. I didn't go over any measurements because your measurements are going to be different than mine. Your tank's unique to whatever I'm doing. I'm just giving you guys the idea of how to make this, and then you can create it based on the measurements of your particular tank. I apologize, in this video, once everything was dry fitted, I did not demo how to use the marker. It's very simple though. Mark off the connection points to each piece of PVC so that when you glue it, you can match everything up based on where those markings are at. Once I was happy with the measurements after dry fitting the PVC DIY siphon together, I went ahead and started gluing the pieces together. One important note though, when you do the PVC gluing and you insert the PVC into a fitting, there's going to be a 1-inch drop, so you take that 1 inch into account for any other measurements that you're doing for this project. If this project was something where I was gluing PVC underneath the tank where it's going to constantly be running water, you would want to use some primer, something like this, to prime it prior to gluing to ensure that you have a good fit and you won't have any leaks. So here I am just gluing everything together and assembling the siphon. I am not going to glue the PVC portion that goes into the tank that's attached to the T-fitting, and I'll explain to you why. The next thing I want to do is take the 3/4 inch barb hose, hold it in my right hand. I'm going to take the Teflon tape and wrap it in a counterclockwise motion. I want to ensure that the Teflon tape stays nice and flat up against the threads, and I'm going to wrap it 3 to 5 times. Once I've done that, I'm going to yank on the Teflon tape so it breaks, and then I'm going to make sure that the Teflon tape is nice and flush up against those threads. Then I'm going to go ahead and manually screw the barb hose into the 3/4 1-inch reducer, and then once I finish manually screwing it in, I'm going to take a pair of pliers and then finish tightening it up. I've gone ahead and taken the 3/4 inch to 1-inch reducer, put the opposite end into the PVC and glued it together so that I could go ahead and use the wrench to tighten it up. I want to ensure that there's no gap between the barb hose and a 3/4 inch 1-inch reducer. I've chosen to use a 1-inch OD by 3/4 inch ID vinyl tubing. You can see how wound up the vinyl tubing is. It makes it very difficult to work with. That's because it's been sitting at the store on a spool for who knows how long. So I'm going to show you guys a little trick on how to make your vinyl tubing easier to manage. All you have to do is place the vinyl tubing in your dryer for about 10 minutes, and after 10 minutes you're going to remove it from the dryer, and it's going to be softer and it's going to be straight as an arrow. You'll be able to manage it, and it's a lot easier to work with. Here's an example of vinyl tubing that is wound up, and right next to it is a vinyl tubing we just took out of the dryer. You can see how nice and straight it is all the way from one tip to the other. Now that the dryer application has softened the vinyl tubing, it's a good time to go ahead and put the vinyl tubing onto the hose barb. Simply place the vinyl tubing on top of the hose barb and work it back and forth until you get a nice tight seal. At this point you want to secure the hose to the hose barb. You can use a hose clamp, metal or plastic, it doesn't matter because it's not going to be exposed to water. In my case I used a zip tie that I firmly put in place. Off to the side of my tank I have markings indicating what a 5-gallon water change is, 10-gallon, 15-gallon. This is important to do for all of our tanks so we know how much water to put back in once a water change has been completed. What I'm going to do here is measure what the distance from a 15-gallon water change to the water surface is, and then again what a 10-gallon water change to the water surface is, and I'm going to take that measurement and measure out the piece of PVC that's going into the tank and match it up with that water line at 15 gallons and the watermark at 10 gallons. In my case, the 15-gallon watermark measured 7 inches and the 10-gallon watermark measured 5.5 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the PVC down to 7 inches, and then I'm going to use another piece of PVC and cut it down to 5.5 inches. Earlier in the video I mentioned I was going to glue the entire siphon except for the portion that goes into the tank. This is why. I want to be able to have the option of doing 10-gallon water changes, 15-gallon water changes, or whatever the amount I want based on the length of the PVC that's inside the tank. So I want to be able to remove the PVC that goes in the tank and switch it out. Remember, when cutting the PVC you have to take into account that 1 inch of PVC that goes into the fitting so that you get the right measurement, as I mentioned earlier. Typically I'll do a 15-gallon water change every Friday. However, sometimes I only do a 10-gallon water change, other times I'll do a 20-gallon water change. So here you can see the difference in the size of the PVC that goes in the tank. Just for reference, one's longer than the other. Obviously the longer it is, the more water you're going to pull out before that siphon breaks. The shorter it is, the less water change, or the less water you're going to take out of your tank before the siphon breaks. I have rain gutters all around my house. However, purchasing a hose that's long enough to reach one of those rain gutters is just too expensive. So I decided to get a little creative. Instead of doing that, what I did is purchase some PVC, mounted it on the wall outside, and ran the PVC up to my front door. So now what I can do is take the other end of the hose, siphon it, and then run the hose into that PVC. That PVC will then route the water that's coming out of the tank directly into one of the rain gutters. In a previous video, I used the Aquarium water changer to do water changes. I'll still be keeping that water changing system as it is a very important tool to clean out detritus from my sump area. The water changing system that I'm showing you here in this video is gravity fed, so it won't work in my sump area because the sump is too low to the ground. So with this gravity fed system, I can now siphon out the water and the other end of the hose can go into the PVC and directly into my water spout, whereas before when I was doing the water changes with the Aquarium, the water would just spill out onto the ground outside. So when life gets busy after water change starts and you get distracted, you can rest assured you will not come back to an empty tank. That will do it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Otherwise, leave a comment down below and we'll see you guys next time.